But let's go ahead and get into the NBA West. You got LeBron and AD and company looking really good out in LA. It was a scary sight the other night though, because it looked like AD was going to go down, and then come to find out it was just like a stinger to the elbow. But he looked like he was grabbing his collarbone. Had he been hurt grabbing his collarbone, we could be talking about what are the Lakers going to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee look good.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they would have helped if AD goes down.
No, that's true. I mean, if you look at Anthony Davis, the way that he has had issues with his shoulder, a lot of people were concerned that was the case. But thankfully, it was just it looked like it was just a minor injury to the elbow. It got him back into the game, and he played phenomenal against the Pelicans there on his return back to New Orleans. 41 points. That's the most scored by any player in NBA history by a player returning to the team they played for ever. So I mean, it was held by Danny Ainge and Stephon Marbury. With 38 points, and he broke it with 41. He played impressive. He played great, and the Lakers just held on to that game. I think New Orleans actually lost that game. I don't think that was the Lakers' game to take for a win. I think that was actually a New Orleans game to lose, with J.J. Redick missing that final 3-point in the baseline. But the Lakers look fantastic, and they continue to look great. 16-2. They're shining in the Western Conference, and to be completely honest, I don't know if anybody's going to touch them for the whole season.
One of the teams that I think could really do it would be the Clippers, probably, or the Nuggets. Those two teams look really solid all around. I know there was a little speculation of how hurt Kawhi got the other night, but I don't think it's going to be super serious. I think that team is going to look good and keep looking good throughout everything. And they're a defensive team. That's a defensive-minded team first. It's led by a good defensive player, and then Paul George is the second good defensive player on that team. It's really fun to see. The other thing I was thinking about, though, is the fact that the Rockets still haven't had a meltdown.
It's not gonna happen.
Michael Porter Jr., if he could show up for the Nuggets and show out like we've seen him do in high school, man, that team could be scary. And I know we're saying in high school here, but he was compared to Kevin Durant coming out his senior year, and then he had a back injury when he went to Missouri.
Yep.
And the one game he did play for Missouri in the playoffs, he wasn't healthy. He just wanted to play for his team, and he didn't look good, and he still hasn't looked good. It's almost it's almost concerning and making you wonder if they need to maybe take him down to the G League for a little bit, or just put him back on IR until he's feeling better, because he's not playing well right now. He's not playing at that level he could be playing at for them. But if they were to get him to be at that caliber of just give him 12 a night, and that team is beyond deadly at that point. That's what I really think about that team, honestly.
Yeah, when you look at that in consideration, I think G League would be a smart move for them. I mean, he's still young. I think that could help him get a little bit of room to grow. And, I think that's the best bet, in my opinion. We talk about the Houston Rockets, we talk about that top four, but I mean, I want to keep talking about these disappointed teams, in my opinion. Obviously, we all know about Golden State and how disappointed they've been. But how about Greg Popovich's San Antonio Spurs? Those guys have struggled really bad. And they've been an issue for this entire season so far. It makes you wonder if DeMar DeRozan and Aldridge are enough for this team, or if they need to actually take a step back and maybe rebuild.
I think it's time to rebuild, and I think that's the first time we've ever seen that in the Greg Popovich era. It's just the fact that these guys are a little bit older. He doesn't have the young talent around it like he thought he did. And some of the young talent he put a lot of stock into just aren't showing out yet, like Jakob Poeltl. It's people like that are the reason, and I'm not trying to just put it on him, but I'm saying the people that they've missed on here recently, that's very unspur-like. That's not a Spurs thing to do. And for them to be missing, it's making you wonder maybe if somebody in the scouting department changed, and now it's just Popovich is going to have to ride it out. The better question now is, does Popovich keep coaching in the NBA? Or does he try to retire here soon to save the legacy?
Yeah, that's a really good question, in my opinion, and we don't know. I mean, Popovich he doesn't really tell you what he's feeling to the media, so I don't think we're ever going to know that answer until it actually happens or until something leaks. But I don't feel like he's one of those players or one of those coaches, I'm sorry, that quits on something that's tough though. So I don't think he'll do it just based on a legacy standpoint. But I hopefully that's not the case. He gets pushed out of the situation. So I hope that there's a rebuild. If there is a rebuild, maybe that's a time for him to move on and go somewhere else, or just retire in general, just so he doesn't have to rebuild on his own unless he wants to be there. Maybe take a front office approach. But San Antonio's, they're just looking rough, and it's unfortunate to see after moving on from someone like Kawhi Leonard, and then all of a sudden they're sitting at the bottom of the Western Conference. Obviously, something they did not expect to happen with this Spurs squad.
I just thought I had an entertaining thought, and I'm just going to throw it by you real quick. What if he does the Phil Jackson route of where he he takes a good team, he runs with that good team, and then he switches to another team, and he tries to make another legacy with another team? I don't know if I see that necessarily with Popovich because he's a lifer, but
Yeah.
I feel like he's a lifer at least. I thought he was going to retire when Tim Duncan retired. I was shocked he didn't. I thought that was going to be it. I thought the entire dynasty was just going to go off into the sunset together, but they didn't. And now he's like the last man back,
That's true. It makes you think about it. That maybe he will take that opportunity, that shot, that some other team. But hopefully he doesn't, in my opinion, because it didn't really work out too well. I mean, Phil Jackson, it worked well for him for the Bulls and the Lakers, but you really can't call him as a legacy in that standpoint. But when he went to the Knicks, it didn't work out too well, and that was towards the end of his career. And so hopefully Popovich does not do that, and I don't think he will because he's older. I think that if Popovich decides to move on from the Spurs, I think it's going to be him moving to a front office position or just out of basketball in general.
I'll tell you what, the New York Knicks, when that happened with Phil Jackson, that kind of, you just had to take it back and go, well, okay, well, what'd he do as a coach, not as a GM then at that point, too? Because it was really bad what happened in New York.
Yeah.
It was a debacle, and New York's still paying for it right now.
Sure.
Let's